because the interviewer guy says, quote,
My name's Matthew.
I had you in the top 6.
He's delusional. Don't
Now,
listen, Phil. You cannot sit there and listen to these guys on a podcast from Canada telling you how good.
I've got to agree with Shawn Ray. You know, you can't listen to these podcasters from do they even have electricity in Canada? Listen, let me tell you something. That interviewer guy from Muscle Dis, the one that's got more listeners than Voice of Bodybuilding, that one, he's delusional.
All right, guys. So Bob Cicherillo, Mr. World, the voice of bodybuilding, called Muscle Discord a small podcast. You know, Shawn Ray called Matt delusional and said, how can you listen to a podcast from Canada or something like that. I included a little clip and also my video that I made for Instagram. And let's talk about it. All right, guys, welcome to Strength Addicts on all social media platforms powered by Iron Mag Labs. Make your mark with IML. Visit ironmaglabs.com today. So basically, guys, what we have here is a little bit of a kind of like the old guard versus the new guard. You know, Sugar Shawn Ray, in my opinion, uncrowned Mr. Olympia. Bob Cicherillo kind of got robbed at the NOC. Marcus Rule won it that year. Kind of got robbed, I think, at the Southeast or South Americans or something. That wasn't South Americans. It was like another show. He had an amazing physique, and then he won the Masters World, and he was, you know, Pro Bodybuilding Weekly. I mean, he works for Jake Wood. I mean, Bob's a very connected guy. He's the athlete's rep. Not sure what that does, that position does. Not sure, but I don't know who voted for him. But the point is, you know, and Sugar Shawn Ray was also the athlete's rep at one point. And at one point, you know, Shawn Ray and Bob Cicherillo were dangerous. You know, they challenged Wayne DeMilia. They wanted to fight for the athletes, kind of like Lee Priest. And I think over the years they've become more sort of institutional, more, you know, kind of towing the line. But then again, you know, a few months ago they really surprised me with basically calling Martin Fitzwater the uncrowned New York Pro Champion. That was just a few months ago, and that was definitely, you know, kind of against the grain. But you know, them calling Muscle Discord, which actually has more subscribers than Voice of Bodybuilding on YouTube. A small podcast to kind of write Matt off as that interview guy and to kind of write off the whole channel as a small podcast. When in reality, look, the pecking order, I would say, obviously Nick Strength and Power, who has been on top since Louis Marco. Louis Marco made the mistake of leaving, you know, left his protege, Nick Miller, to sort of take over, thinking that when he came back, the LUI was going to be back in number one, and the LUI was not. He came back and nobody was feeling him and he just went away. And, you know, so Nick Miller is the top right there, Nick Strength and Power. Several notches below, this is no knock, I mean, it's just several notches below in terms of subscribers and views and comments and whatnot is Desktop Bodybuilding, who I think is in that solid number 2 spot. But it's not like a very 1-2 close. It wasn't like that, but I think that he is solidly in that number 2 spot. I don't think anybody's near, but I do think Muscle Discord is in that number 3 spot, and they are actually, I think Muscle Discord has the potential to catch up to Xavier Wills at Desktop more so than Xavier has the capability of catching up to Nick Miller. But that's also because of the age of the channels. That's also because Nick Miller had the support, very, very strong support of Louis Marco, who at the time was bigger than Nick Miller, and Xavier didn't have that. And also, YouTube's making it a lot harder to monetize, a lot harder to get views, a lot harder to sort of figure out the algorithm. I think Xavier's channel got a strike one time because of an asshole promoter. So basically, there's different factors. Now, if Xavier Wills and Nick Miller had started out day one, same time, same everything, I think that they might be actually neck and neck. But because of a product of the times or not. Muscle Discord, though, has really been gaining a lot of momentum, and they're way bigger than Voice of Bodybuilding in terms of numbers. But I think that's why it offended Matt that he was, you know, sort of relegated to that interviewer guy, not even having his name mentioned, not even his full name, but even his first name, or even like his name is Matthew, but even if they'd have called him Matt, it would have been okay, you know. So that's sort of one offense. The other offense is the fact calling it a small podcast, sort of saying that, just because it's from Canada, because there's also that sort of kind of like snobbery involved, like where if you're not from the United States, then you're not anything, basically. We try to kind of play that down in bodybuilding, but it's there. And then I think the fact is that I think the other thing that offended him, if I have to say, is the fact that, they basically said, because he wasn't there, he didn't have the right to really give an opinion on a show. And that is also a very old school, very, yesteryear kind of argument. And that was more so during the days where you had, 3, 4, 5 websites at a particular contest. And it was a comment that I think really goes back. These are very dated sort of digs, but this is a dig that goes back to probably maybe 2010, 2012, 13, 14 kind of range, where you still had MD, you still had RX, you know what I mean? I was like at the small and regional shows. You had, what's the other one? Muscle, the one that Mandis had, and then you had, I forgot the name of it, and then you had, remember Waylon Martin, Iron Affinity. You had, I think Rising Muscle might have done some contests. There were a lot of different ones. And, you had MD Latino, which was kind of like its own thing. It was muscular development, sort of, but Kit was doing his own thing, and he had Hector Mendoza with him. So you had a lot. Remember the Arnold Classic, and with the fight between RX and MD over Ahmad Ashkenani. I mean, it was so like I'm saying, these are very, very dated digs, sort of. But the thing is, this Voice of Bodybuilding wasn't at the show either, I don't think, and I don't think they even do contest coverage. So I think it was just a number of and the clip that I posted was very short. I don't think that they meant to do it. I think it's just I think, well, they meant to do it, but I just think they're in the wrong decade, basically. And I also think that they think that because they've been around, they have been. I mean, come on, they've been around for decades at this game. They maybe don't feel that Muscle Discord's on their level, and that may be, even though Muscle Discord has more viewers than them. I mean, we can't forget the fact that, RX Muscle at one point in time was the dominant force, but Nick Strength and Power gets a lot more views than RX Muscle, even though RX Muscle has a lot more content, articles written by me, Muscle in the Mornings written by me, contest coverage by me and a lot of other people. It doesn't seem like that should be the case, but you can't really sometimes blame people for liking what they like. They like Nick Miller, they like that sound of his voice, like he's constantly drinking something, like that wet mouth, whatever, I don't know, and he doesn't ever appear on video. It's kind of like radio, but like he's using other people's content with their permission. You'd be a moron to protest him using your content, just like that promoter was a moron for dinging Desktop Bodybuilding. You don't ding media, you dumbass. They're trying to promote your product, and you're not paying them. And what you're gonna like ding them? You're gonna like hurt their channel, you stupid moron. But in any event, I digress. I'm drinking my my Rise Fuel. They don't sponsor me, but this is really good. So in any event, I think Matt kind of put them on blast, and I made a little stupid reel, and I'm doing this like video, and maybe I'll write an article for Iron Magazine. But it's not like it's not like the Dave Palumbo, Mark Lobliner feud, which I'm starting to think was staged, if you ask me. I don't know, because Mark's got a new YouTube channel. What better way to like get some views than having like this sort of, I don't know. Who knows? I don't want to sound like RFK Jr., but who's a fine man, by the way. His marriage may be coming to an end, but he endorsed Trump, so good for him. But the point is, though, I think it's funny, but I also think it's not so personal as a lot of us thought. It's just, those guys are the old cats, the old guard, and Matt, Muscle Discord, Desktop Bodybuilding, Al Gore and the internet are very much today and the future. Because, Al Gore created the internet.
listeners.